At the same time, Deontay Johnson has shown up for minicamp, says that he's got no expectations of sitting out, could care less about it. Minkah Fitzpatrick, on the other hand, is holding in, pulling a TJ Watt, saying, I want some contract money before he's on the field. Makes a lot of sense. Let's start with Deontay Johnson. Spoke with the media today for the first time this season, or this offseason, I should say, and said that he doesn't plan to sit out. He plans to practice, is not bothered about the contract negotiations, had a giant smile when somebody asked if he saw what other wide receivers are getting paid. And he said, yeah, like, obviously I'm paying attention to it. Like, obviously I know. But at the same time, he's here to play football. He wants to play football, and he'll let his agent handle that. I thought what was also interesting is that he said the words, if it happens next season, and seemed totally okay with that. In my head, he knows that it's not a quick moving conversation. He also understands that there's a lot of moving parts in the conversation, and he seems content with playing football this year. What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, I know Deontay's gotten a lot of slander from Steelers Nation about sometimes the way he carries himself, if not for the small problems that he encounters on the field. But, man, like, you look at his comments that he made today, and I'm pulling this right from your article on allsteelers.com. A bell rings in your head, such and such got this, such and such got that. I try not to look at it, what you'd call pocket watching or stuff like that. I want to be here, Johnson added. I'm patient. My agent is going to do what he does about the situation. I'm not trying to focus on that.
Yep.
Is that not what you want to hear out of your franchise receiver, out of your number one receiver?
Yeah, that's what I looked at it as. I thought that he handled himself perfectly. And the thing about that is a lot of people, including myself, expected worse. Deontay is the type of guy that isn't super vocal to begin with. So you just think of those situations. They're awkward. They can be a little hostile. I thought that the media, I was not part of that scrum. Shout out Stephen Thompson. He was pushy, was real pushy, like trying to get an answer out of him. And he held strong and said, dude, look, I'm here. I'm going to play. Like, I'm not sitting out. I didn't show up for one day. I will say that he showed up for individuals. He dropped a pass, disappeared for a hot minute, and the conversation at lunch was maybe he's done. Then he came back out and he looked real sharp during practice. So I have no issues with it. I thought that he handled himself perfectly.
Yeah, so that's like cookie cutter what you want to hear out of a receiver, whether he's playing for your football team or whether you're his agent trying to get him paid. The overall feeling in Pittsburgh is that Minkah obviously is first due for a contract extension. Yeah. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. But Deontay, like deservedly so, is going to get a pay raise at some point in time. Now, whether that's going to be this summer or heading into next offseason kind of remains to be seen. But like, I feel like the interest is obviously there from the Steelers to try to get something done with him. Obviously, he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. And like, I believe he said something along the lines of like, if it doesn't come this year, then like, I'll just continue to put my head down and keep working. And then hopefully it'll come next offseason. So, I mean, this guy seems very determined to, at very worst, go out this year and, play out of his mind and, hopefully play himself into a few more commas in his bank account.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's two big factors here. For one, all of the negative energy towards Deontay and about Deontay seems to be about him being greedy when he's not, and he's not worried about it. I think people are immediately associating him with like Antonio Brown, and I just don't understand that because he's nothing like Antonio Brown. And he's not asking for more than what he's worth. At no point has he asked for anything. No numbers have come out of his mouth one time. And we're all making the assumption of this is what his value will be. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people out there that are like, no way, that's ridiculous. Well, here's the thing. And we've said this time and time again. He's going to get paid that amount of money. Like at some point, Deontay Johnson will be making a bare minimum of like $19 million.
I would be shocked.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way he's not. And if it's not with the Steelers, it's going to be with another team because that's what his value is. Everybody has turned us talking about what Deontay Johnson's value is into Deontay Johnson asking for too much money. And then he showed up and everybody's shocked. I mean, not saying us, but like the overall public is shocked. The media is shocked about Deontay Johnson being cool in the situation when the whole time Deontay Johnson probably was cool in the situation, and we made it into so much because all we're doing is talking about his market value.
Do you think the position he plays kind of factors into that at all? Because receivers in the NFL carry this such like diva, like prima donna, like aura to them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you look around the league and like obviously like those guys are some of the highest paid in the NFL. You look at Deebo Samuel, who like reported the 49ers minicamp today. You look at DK Metcalf, who did not report to Seattle's minicamp this week. There's
lost
like
$9,000 something.
Yeah, something like that. Dude, the training camp fines are even heavier too. I think I was reading between like 40 to 50,000 per day.
Yeah.
So like there's a bunch of different ways like receivers can go about it, but like whether you're the organization, whether you're just a fan, whether you're a teammate, whether you're his agent, I mean, like I feel like at this point in time, nothing but good things can come out of Deontay Johnson being in minicamp.
Exactly. Like if you're somebody who's continuing to hate on Deontay Johnson, you're just finding reasons to be miserable. That's the bottom line.
If you're upset with like his like,
yeah, if you're upset with his performance, that's
sure.
Yeah, but like performance,
like,
what are you upset about?
On that many times.
Many times, but even in that same conversations, what are you upset about? You're upset about the drops that he had last season. Like, okay, like I got it. It's a new season. He's still playing it for $3 million this year. He hasn't signed a new contract. He's got a shot to redeem himself. He wasn't the only one who sucked at times last year. I just feel as if, there's just it's a fresh slate. It's a new season. At this point, just calm down. Like we should head into the season on just a blank slate. And if at that point, like if you have an issue, I feel like you're just creating an issue. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where we are.
For sure.
Do you think he gets paid this offseason? Do you think from his words and what you heard, do you feel as if there's actual talks happening right now, or do you feel as if that's just being made?
I would be willing to bet like at least preliminary talks have been held, not just now, but like probably throughout the offseason. But like the Steelers got to get that Minkah deal done first, and like I feel like both inside and outside of like Minkah's camp and like both like the facility for the Steelers as well, like everybody kind of like understands the pecking order of what needs to happen in Pittsburgh. And that is no slight to Diontae whatsoever, but Pittsburgh would be very, very wise to make sure Minkah Fitzpatrick will continue to play football with the Steelers for quite some time.
Yeah, and that's a good transition into the next thing we're going to talk about. I think the other side of this contract negotiation talk, the other side of Deontay, is Minkah, who is holding in, participated in individuals. I didn't think I was going to have the opportunity to actually say that he's holding in, although some like fake Twitter account. I'm kind of like done of not calling people out on Twitter that want to be, that like try to act like they're there and they're not there. Like I have to follow a particular set of rules. You have to follow a particular set of rules when you're actually reporting on the team. One of them is you can't just say what's happening. You have to get it confirmed by people before you could say this happened, which means that you can't say, good line. You can't say that Minkah is practicing or not practicing unless somebody says that. Mike something on Twitter, I couldn't tell you what his name is, but tossed it out there. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, dude, you're not even here, man. You're not even a reporter. What are you doing? Made it easy for me. So shout him out for that. To confirm that Minkah is not practicing right now, chilling in the back. DeMonte KZ's taking those reps. TJ Watt style, I'd say, but much less.
I was going to ask you, this sounds really similar to the TJ Watt scenario in training camp.
It's a TJ Watt situation, but less. Like TJ Watt was working his butt off, dude. And harder than I said that a million times last summer. TJ Watt was working harder than anybody on the football field. Minkah was chilling. Like he was definitely chilling. Do I expect him to continue to just be chilling? No. And at the same time, not 90, but a good chunk of Minkah's game comes from how intelligent he is. And I think that watching and observing helps that as much as actually playing. So nothing harsh there. I don't know. I don't even have a question. Like, how do you look at
I'm
this?
very pro player in the aspect when it comes to securing financial features and stuff. So, like, while I do applaud a guy like Deontay Johnson for showing up to minicamp and participating with the team and showing it a good faith, I guess is the lack of better terms for it. I also don't really have a problem with what Minkah is doing because number one, at least he's there at the
Yeah.
facility. He's still with the team. He's still getting those mental reps in. He's still doing individual work. Obviously, you look at a guy like TJ and what he did last year, didn't impact his ability to do his job at all. In fact, it probably helped him a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably kept him a little bit frustrating to the beginning of the season. I don't have any problem with it. I think Minkah has been very professional in his approach to this entire thing. They're just like Deontay Johnson. There's a clear desire for him to stay with Pittsburgh. There's a even more clear desire for the Steelers to hang on to him. Fans love him. I mean, like he immediately came to the Steelers and almost single-handedly turned his defense around overnight.
Oh yeah.
So his importance to Pittsburgh's defense on the back end can't be overstated. It
No.
really can't.
No, I have no issues with it. I think if anything, it just kind of shows that a deal's going to get done. I don't think that Mike Tomlin is as cool as he is about the situation because when he was asked about it, he said, like, I don't know what the plan is yet. I don't think Minkah's as cool with the situation. I don't think anybody's not working. I don't think anybody's showing up for practice and saying, I'm going to chill in the back. And the team's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. If there's no reason to, like if there was no contract talks, if things were somewhat in a deadlock or they weren't moving north, I feel as if people would be like, nope, you got to practice, you got to work. There would be tension. There's no tension, which means that it's moving. I kind of expect it to get done maybe before training camp, if we're being honest, because I think the Steelers are willing to add that number. I think it's also a lot easier for them to add that number, knowing what the future of the quarterback position looks like. Like at bare minimum, they're with Mitch Trubisky the next 2 years, and they know what that cap number is.
So we know we've talked about this a little bit to where the Steelers, like at least off of the top of our heads, haven't necessarily gone into an offseason, gone into a training camp like this, where they've had to pay 2 premium price tags for players such as Minkah and such as Diontae. And in that scenario you just provided, where Minkah does get paid before training camp, what do you think the chances are of Deontay Johnson also getting a contract before the regular season?
I wouldn't say there's zero. I don't know, to be honest, though.
Do you think the Steelers would just pay Minkah and kind of wipe their hands and focus on the season?
No, I don't think that'll happen. I think that if Minkah signs with room left to still negotiate with Deontay will be negotiated with. I also
Follow-up question. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
With Colbert kind of out of the driver's seat and Omar Khan now running the show, I guess is the best way to put it, do you think the Steelers would be more willing to negotiate in season with Diontae?
No. Omar made that very clear. He's like, nothing's changing. Nothing's changing to our process. That's a Rooney thing. That wasn't a Colbert thing. It's like players not wearing the number 1. Like the Rooney family just won't let that happen. And that's okay. But I think that they'll try to get Minkah's done with enough time to negotiate, to have real negotiations with Diontae. And then I believe that maybe something could get done. I don't know. I don't want to say the chances are 0, but I don't want to say they're high. I just don't know how it's viewed right now.
I guess it would be tough to negotiate a deal for Diontae when you don't really know what you're looking at, like cap-wise.
That's what I'm saying.
With Minkah, so it, like, obviously you would have a clearer picture of what you can and can't do with Diontae after you are done with Minkah's deal. So like that does make sense.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think that there's so many question marks at wide receiver. Like, do you want to stick with the 4 that you have now and just say those are your 4 for the future? How much more difficult is it in 2 years to sign Chase Claypool? I think there's a lot of ifs, like a ton of ifs, for them to confidently say Diontae is the guy. That being said, there's a lot of people, us included, who have brought the George Pickens, Calvin Austin argument into this. Like, oh, they're the future. There's 4 years before either of them have to sign a contract. At that point, Deontay's contract is over. So you don't have to worry about that. Like, and if the first off, in 4 years, the salary cap, wide receivers could be making $30 million a year. Like, we have no idea. But on top of that, Diontae will have 1 year left on his on his next deal. So you don't have to worry about his cap space. At that point, you could either move on from a dude who's approaching 30 years old, or you could move on from those guys because, Diontae turns into something ridiculous. So I don't think that they really play a major role. I think Chase Claypool plays the bigger role here. And I think that they have a lot of hope in him, but they just haven't seen it yet. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah. And the one kind of downside to everybody pointing out like the Steelers don't really like paying receivers is that when you get a guy like Deontay Johnson, especially in like the third round, you don't want to continue to go through the draft cycle of hoping you keep on hitting on receivers and hoping they end up like guys like Deontay Johnson, like guys Chase Claypool is hopefully going to be this year. Like especially with like rookie receivers too, even though like I feel like their instant impact in the league has like continually grown to where you can plug and play a rookie right away and you'll have no problem adjusting. You look at guys like Jamar Chase, like Justin Jefferson. Granted, like those are probably more exceptions than like the rule itself, but still, like Chase Claypool. I mean, he had the 4 or 5 touchdown game his rookie year.
Yeah. 4.
I mean, like there's a whole bunch of things and like a vast amount of like leeway you can give these rookie wide receivers, but like at the end of the day, you don't want to hold off on paying Deontay Johnson just because you have other guys on the roster. If Deontay Johnson makes your offense better and he's able to help your team win football games, you need to pay him.
Preach. That's what it comes down to. He's the best wide receiver on your team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a long, long history of not taking early wide receivers. So everybody that you draft is either a hit or a miss. You don't know. You're not going to find another Diontae in the third round. And if you do, you got lucky.
I would feel more comfortable like signing Diontae and then almost letting Chase walk and having this like Diontae George Pickens duo than like foregoing paying Deontay Johnson and just really rolling the dice with like Claypool, Calvin Austin, and like George Pickens.
Who do the Steelers have to pay? They have their left tackle, if Dan Moore Jr. works out, is secured for the next 2 years, 3 years. So you don't have to worry about that deal for 3 years. They don't have a quarterback deal for the next 5 years. They don't have to worry about a quarterback. If they lock up Diontae Johnson, that's 4 years gone. You have 3 more years before you have to worry about Najee Harris if you're going to give him a second contract because he's going to be pushing 30 years old. You already locked up TJ. You're about to lock up Minkah. You got nobody else to give major contracts to, like huge record-breaking deals to. Yep. If you wanted to sign Diontae and you wanted to sign Chase, you still have 3 more years before you have to worry about the other 2 guys. Like the Steelers are in such a good situation when it comes to their cap space that I think people are making a bigger deal out of who they should keep and who they should get rid of than is necessary. Because I think truthfully, even if it isn't their way and how they've done things in the past, they've never been in a situation where Ben Roethlisberger isn't hogging up $35 million of the cap space. That's a lot of deals. Like $35 million is Chase and Diontae. Like they can make that work.
To your point too, the salary cap will continue to go and hopefully skyrocket within the next few years. And then I'm pretty sure the Steelers just hired a cap wizard as their full-time general manager going forward. So I mean, if any team should not be worried about how they're going to fit certain pieces of the puzzle together in terms of the salary cap, probably the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to be just fine. I feel good. I think Diontae talking was the first time that we should all feel very at ease about the situation ahead for the Pittsburgh Steelers.